They paid for my sister's college and told me I wasn't worth the investment, but when they saw me standing on that graduation stage, top of my class, scholarship medal gleaming, their faces went pale. They backed the wrong kid, and now everyone knows it. My name's Emily Johnson, and for most of my life, I lived in the background. You know that feeling when you're in the same room as your family, but somehow you're invisible? That was me. My older sister, Sophia. She was the light in every room. Straight A's, homecoming queen, the one they framed photos of and bragged about at every dinner party. And me? I was just the other one, the one they forgot to pick up from soccer practice, the one who had to learn early that love in our house was conditional, and I didn't meet the conditions. But here's the thing about being overlooked. It either breaks you, or it builds something fierce inside of you. So when I finally walked across that college graduation stag, without their money, without their help, with every scholarship and sleepless night behind me, I saw their faces change. For the first time, they saw me. Not as the second choice, not as the spare, but as someone they never imagined I could become. But if you've ever felt small, or like your worth was measured by someone else's spotlight, stay with me. This story is for you. Let's go back for a second. I grew up in a quiet little Michigan suburb, the kind with neat sidewalks, trimmed lawns, and everyone waving at each other like life was just fine. And for a while, I thought it was. On paper, our family looked like something out of a Hallmark movie. Mom Margaret was a well-liked high school teacher, Dad James was a quiet but respected accountant, and then there was me and my younger sister Sophia, just 2 years apart but worlds away in how we were treated. Sophia was the golden child from the day she was born. Flawless. Little blonde curls, a perfect smile, good at everything she touched. I, on the other hand, was just there. I wasn't a troublemaker or a slacker. I was just the kid who blended into the wallpaper of their lives, and the signs were always there, even if no one wanted to say it out loud. Christmas mornings were especially rough. Sophia would unwrap the latest gadgets, tablets, and expensive jewelry, while I got socks. One year, I got a dollar store paint set while Sophia opened a brand new laptop. I asked Mom once, when I was about 8, why she always got so much more. Her answer was simple and brutal. Sophia needs more support for her talents, like mine didn't count. At school events, the pattern got clearer. When Sophia had a science fair, Mom and Dad showed up with balloons and homemade brownies for the whole class. When I had an art exhibit, Mom would swing by on her lunch break if I reminded her enough. Dad told me once, "Art's a cute hobby, Emily, but it's not a career." Still, I kept drawing. I kept trying. The only person who ever really saw Malike, really saw Muse, my grandma, Elizabeth. Every summer, I'd stay with her at her old lake house. We'd sit on the porch and sketch the water, and she'd tell me, "Emily, you see the world in ways others don't. Don't ever let anyone make you feel small for that." Her words became my anchor. But as soon as summer ended and I was back home, that anchor would sink again. By the time I hit high school, I stopped trying to win them over. If love had conditions in my family, I clearly hadn't met them. So I changed strategy. I joined the business club, took every AP math class available, crushed economics, and even won a regional business plan contest when I was 15. My teacher, Mr. Thompson, was thrilled. He even called my parents to brag. Mom's response? "Oh, that's nice." Did Emily help Sophia with her history paper yet? Sophia's smallest achievements got front-page treatment at home. She won 3rd place in a debate. We went out to dinner. I brought home a state trophy. Dad didn't even mention it at work. So I got a job at a local coffee shop junior year, knowing deep down that if I ever wanted a future, I'd have to pay for it myself. I saved every dollar, no shopping sprees, no movie nights, just school, work, and more school. I pulled a 4 GPA all 4 years, but no one clapped. No one cared. Senior year came around, and Sophia and I both set our eyes on Westfield University, me for business, her for political science. It was a long shot, but we both got in. Same day, same program. I was over the moon. I ran home waving the letter like it was made of gold. I remember standing at the dinner table, heart racing, saying, "I got into Westfield's business school." Dad didn't even look up from his plate. "Nice, Emily, that was it." 30 seconds later, Sophia came bursting through the door, screaming about her acceptance, and suddenly, it was a full-blown celebration. Champagne, hugs, Instagram posts, even a cake that said "Our future leader." I didn't even get a congratulations. I just sat there, holding my letter, trying not to cry. Then came the moment that changed everything. 2 weeks later, we had a rare family dinner, all 4 of us at the table. Dad cleared his throat and said, "We need to talk about college plans." I thought, finally, this is it, my turn. But he only looked at Sophia. "We've been saving for your tuition since you were little. Westfield is pricey, but don't worry, we've got it covered." I blinked. I couldn't speak. Sophia beamed and nodded like it was expected. I waited, thinking surely they were getting to me next. The silence stretched. Finally, I asked, "What about me?" And the way they looked at me, it was like I was the mailman asking for a bonus. Dad said without flinching, "We only saved for one of you. Sophia's shown more promise. Her degree will lead to something." Mom reached out and patted my hand, like that would soften the blow. "You're so independent, Emily. You can get loans, or maybe start at a community college." Then, almost like an afterthought, she added the line that still rings in my ears to this day: she deserved it more. I went completely numb. 17 years of working harder, being overlooked, staying strong through every dismissal, and that's what it came down to? Deserving? That night, I didn't eat, I didn't speak. I locked my bedroom door, curled up on the floor, and cried until my eyes burned. It didn't matter that I had the better grades, the awards, or the work ethic. In their eyes, I would always be second place. And no amount of success could change the fact that they'd never believed in me to begin with. The morning after that awful dinner, I barely slept. My face was swollen from crying and my chest felt like it was carrying bricks. But I needed answers, so I went to the kitchen, still in my pajamas, and asked straight out, "How could you save for Sophia but not me?" My voice was shaking, but I got the words out. Mom didn't even look sorry. She just sighed and said, "We had to be practical, Emily." Dad, who rarely raised his voice, snapped back, "So if you're all over the place with jobs and random business ideas," that cut deep. They didn't even know what I wanted to do. They'd never asked. "We'll help with loan applications," Mom added, like that fixed everything. That's when it hit me. I was never going to be worth their investment. And if they weren't going to bet on me, I'd bet on myself. That weekend, I drove to Grandma Elizabeth's lake house and broke down in her arms. I told her everything. How they chose Sophia, how I was supposed to just accept it and move on. She squeezed my hand and looked at me like I was made of gold. "Your parents are dead wrong," she said. "You've got fire in you they just don't see. Promise me you'll go to Westfield anyway." That promise lit something inside me. From that moment, I was all in. I was going to Westfield. I didn't know how, but I was going to get there, stay there, and walk across that stage with or without them. Back at school, I became a scholarship machine. My counselor, Mrs. Lee, helped me after hours filling out form after form. I scored a couple of small ones, but Westfield was expensive. Grandma co-signed a private loan, I took out federal loans, and somehow I scraped enough together for that first year. Housing was next. Sophia got a shiny new dorm, full ride covered by Mom and Dad. I found a beat-up apartment 45 minutes from campus and signed a lease with 3 strangers I met online. I picked up 2 jobs, morning shifts at a coffee shop and weekends at a bookstore. While my parents took Sophia to Target for bedding and laptops, I was packing my clothes into grocery store boxes. The night before I moved, Mom handed me a bag of used sheets and said, "You'll make it work." That was her version of support. Move-in day came. Sophia rode in style, her things perfectly folded in their SUV. I followed in my Honda that coughed the whole way. They helped unload her stuff, smiled for photos, then glanced at me like, "Well, good luck." I stood there watching them drive away, holding a box labeled "Kitchen," full of thrifted mugs and mismatched plates. My apartment had peeling paint and loud neighbors. I sat on my floor that night and wondered, can I really do this? Just then, Grandma texted me, "Diamonds are made under pressure, Emily. You're already shining." I wiped my face, got up, made a plan, and didn't look back. Freshman year was hell. I'd wake at 5 a.m., open the coffee shop, head to class, then run to the bookstore, sometimes closing at midnight. I ate on buses, studied between customers, and listened to lectures while cleaning coffee machines. Meanwhile, Sophia posted sorority photos, studied abroad, and had home-cooked meals on weekends, and was choosing between textbooks and groceries. But all that grind gave me something unexpected. I was ahead in every business class, budgeting, planning, time management. I had it all. One day, Professor Davis pulled me aside and said, "Your insights are next level. You've got something special." That changed everything. Then, I met Chloe, one of my roommates. She noticed how tired I looked and started leaving me food in the fridge with sticky notes that said, "Eat this or I'll fight you." One night she sat me down and said, "You're gonna crash." "What's going on?" I told her the whole story, expecting judgment, but she was furious. For me. "That's messed up," she said. "I'm your family now." And from then on, she really was. She helped edit my papers, cooked dinner, and cheered me on through finals. In exchange, all she wanted was help with her homework. It hit me one night while we studied. This is what family is supposed to feel like. Sophomore year, things nearly fell apart. The coffee shop cut my hours, and suddenly I couldn't make rent. I ran to Ms. Carter at Financial Aid, shaking. She found me an emergency grant and connected me with Professor Davis again. He needed a research assistant. It paid better, fit my schedule, and introduced me to real-world business research. Professor Davis believed in me. "Ever thought about starting your own business?" he asked one day. That question stuck. Using what I learned in marketing class, I launched a virtual assistant service for local businesses. I built a simple website, sent emails to small companies, and booked my first client within weeks. By junior year, I was making enough to quit the bookstore. I still worked for Professor Davis, but now I had paying clients, experience, and confidence. I even started speaking up in class, sharing what I'd learned. Suddenly, professors knew my name. Classmates asked for help. For the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. I was respected. Sophia and I barely talked. She sent me invites to events, but I was always too busy. My parents still called her every week. I got a "hope you're doing well" text once a month. One Thanksgiving, I couldn't afford the gas to drive home, and Mom sent, "We miss you but understand you're busy." It stung, but I was used to it. By junior year, my business had grown into a small agency. I hired 2 classmates and paid them well. I used class projects to test ideas, and real clients benefited. Professor Davis nominated me for a scholarship that covered my senior year. "You're what this school is all about," he told me. I cried when I got the email. I wasn't surviving anymore, I was thriving. By senior year, I had 15 clients, 4 student employees, and a feature in a local business magazine. Then came the big break, the National Collegiate Business Innovation Competition. The prize was $50,000, 0 cents, and major press. I poured everything into my pitch. My agency helped rural businesses compete. Online, we had case studies, real revenue impact, and glowing client reviews. While I prepped, Sophia floundered. Her thesis was a mess. She showed up at my apartment one night in tears. "I might not graduate," she said. Part of me wanted to say, "Now you know how it feels," but I couldn't let her fail. I helped her, and for the first time we actually connected. "How do you do it all?" she asked. I told her. The jobs, the hours, the pressure. She was stunned. "Mom and Dad said you were doing fine," she whispered. I laughed because it was so far from the truth. That night changed us. She started pushing back against them, telling them no, learning to stand up for herself. We studied together, we laughed, we became sisters again. Then in February, Dean Anderson asked to meet. "Your story's incredible," he said. "Self-funded, top of your class, running a business. We want you to speak at graduation." I said yes, thinking that was the big moment, but I had no idea what was really coming. April came, and I crushed the business competition. Not just placed, not just got a participation ribbon. I won the whole thing. $50,000, 0 cents, national spotlight, my name in bold letters across the university newspaper front page. There I was, holding a check with my logo on it, smiling wide under a headline that read, "Student Entrepreneur Wins Big, Puts Westfield on the Map." When I called Grandma Elizabeth, she cried over the phone, voice shaking with pride. "I always knew you were a star," she whispered. Her words meant the world. My parents, not a text, not a call, just silence, like nothing had happened. 2 weeks before graduation, they rolled into town. Of course, not for me, but for Sophia. They rented a massive Airbnb with a pool and catering and balloons, spelling out "Congrats, Sophia." I got a text from Mom 2 days before the party. "If you're free, we're doing a little thing for Sophia. We figured you're probably busy." Busy? I was launching a real business and speaking at graduation, but sure. They still thought I was just busy. It stung, sure, but I was over needing their approval. That chapter had closed long ago. The night before graduation, Grandma handed me a special gift. It was a custom graduation stole, navy, with silver thread, and stitched in bold were the words she always told me, "Diamonds are made under pressure." "Wear it proud," she said, hugging me so tight I could barely breathe. At rehearsal that day, Dean Anderson leaned in and whispered, "Get ready for a big intro tomorrow." I tried to press her for details, but she just smiled and winked. That night, my parents threw a fancy dinner for Sophia. Everyone from both sides of the family was there. They made speeches about her bright future, internships, policy dreams. It's all of it. I smiled politely and kept sipping my water. Then my Uncle Michael, bless him, turned to my dad and said, "And what about Emily? Didn't she just win some national competition?" You could have heard a pin drop. Dad waved it off. "Oh, just one of her little projects." Grandma's jaw clenched. She stood, motioned for them to follow her into the hallway, and the next 10 minutes were filled with muffled voices and serious faces. When they came back, my parents were tight-lipped, their smiles more forced. I didn't know exactly what she said, but judging by Dad's look of pure discomfort, she held nothing back. Then came graduation day. The air was electric. Sophia texted me, "Proud to walk with you," and that alone felt like a full-circle moment. Chloe drove me to campus, blasting music and yelling, "No buses for the boss lady today." The ceremony was packed. My parents were seated front and center, eyes locked on Sophia like she was the only reason they showed up. But Grandma was watching me. Her smile wasn't just proud, it was fierce. When they called my name to walk the stage, her whistle cut through the air like a trumpet. I smiled, waved, took my diploma. But then came the moment everything changed. President Harper walked up to the mic. Before we conclude, she said, we have some very special recognitions. The crowd quieted. First up, Emily Johnson, our student speaker. I walked to the stage, nerves buzzing, heart pounding. I glanced at my parents. They looked confused, caught completely off guard. They had no idea what was coming. I cleared my throat, held the mic, and gave the most honest speech of my life. 4 years ago, I walked onto this campus with nothing but grit. No college fund, no family cheering me on, just a dream and a lot of coffee-fueled nights. I worked 30 hours a week, built a business from scratch, and graduated with honors. This diploma isn't just paper. It's proof that you can rise, even when the people closest to you don't believe in you. The audience clapped, loud and long, and for a second I just stood there, taking it in. But I wasn't done. President Harper stepped back up. And now, she said, we're proud to announce our 2025 valedictorian, Emily Johnson. Gasps, applause. I stood frozen. She wasn't finished. Emily maintained a perfect 4 GPA while launching and running a 6-figure business. She won the National Business Innovation Competition, representing our university with excellence, and she did it all without family financial support, paying her own way through hard work and resilience. The auditorium went completely silent for a beat. Then the crowd erupted. A standing ovation. Professors were clapping, students were on their feet. I looked into the crowd. Sophia was crying, clapping through her tears. Chloe was hollering like a sports fan. And my parents? Their faces had gone pale, like ghosts, like someone pulled the air out of their lungs. They looked around, realizing that every person in that room had just heard how little they'd done for me. Their shame wasn't private anymore. It was public. President Harper continued. Emily has accepted a position at Alexander Global Consulting and will be featured on the cover of Business Innovation magazine next month. And in her honor, we're proud to launch the Emily Johnson Resilience Scholarship for students who overcome personal obstacles in pursuit of greatness. I looked at my parents one last time as I left the stage. For the first time ever, they had nothing to say, nothing to take credit for, just silence. And in that silence I found peace. After the ceremony, my parents tried to pretend nothing had happened, like they hadn't just been publicly called out in front of hundreds of people. Quite a surprise, Emily, Dad said with that same forced smile I'd seen too many times, but I wasn't about to let them rewrite the narrative. I've always been this person, I said calmly. You just didn't look. And I meant it. I wasn't suddenly successful. I'd been working, grinding, growing for years. Sophia stepped in, putting her arm around me like a quiet apology. Everyone's talking about Emily's speech, she said. Imagine what she could have done if she'd had the support I got. Mom flinched. That landed. Uncle Michael and Aunt Laura jumped in too, gently but firmly calling out the years of favoritism. It wasn't cruel. It was honest. Dad tried to deflect. Maybe we should talk more at home, he offered. But I shook my head. I'm celebrating with my real family, my team, my mentors, the people who showed up. Then I turned and walked out with Grandma and Sophia, leaving them standing there, with nothing but the weight of their silence. At the business school reception, I finally felt seen, not just for surviving, but for succeeding. There was champagne, congratulations, and people who'd believed in me from the beginning. Catherine Alexander, the CEO of the firm I was about to join, clinked her glass with mine and said, "Your grit's why we hired you." Sophia's jaw actually dropped. "That's a huge firm," she whispered. Later, Dean Anderson came over and handed me a business card with a handwritten note on the back. It was for a full MBA scholarship, just in case you're not done impressing the world, she smiled. My path was wide open. We still went to the family dinner later that night, mostly for Grandma's sake, and the mood was completely different. I wasn't in the background anymore. Relatives asked about my business, my plans, my next steps. My parents sat there quietly, watching as everyone celebrated the daughter they used to overlook. At one point, Sophia spoke up, voice steady and clear. "Mom, Dad, you picked me over Emily, and you were wrong." Mom teared up. "We didn't mean to," she mumbled. I looked at her, calm but firm. Intent doesn't erase impact. Dad awkwardly tried to hand me a check to help with an apartment deposit, like that would fix years of being cast aside. I smiled and said, "My $90,000 0-cent salaries got me covered." He blinked, stunned. My starting pay was higher than what he'd worked decades to earn. That moment didn't feel petty. It felt fair. Later that month, Sophia invited me and Grandma on a mini vacation. "Just the family that matters," she said. I'll never forget those words. They stuck with me in a way that healed something inside, because somewhere along the way, I'd built a new family. Chloe, my mentors, my professors, and now even Sophia T were the ones who showed up. And that's what family is. A few weeks after graduation, I moved into a bright new apartment with real furniture, no peeling paint, and sunlight that hit just right in the morning. I kept my agency running on the side while starting at Alexander Global. The magazine cover dropped a week later with my face and story printed for everyone to see. I wasn't just a headline, I was a statement. I even used a portion of my prize money to start a scholarship at Westfield. One for kids like me, the ones who come in alone, overlooked, and underestimated. My parents tried to reconnect. Slowly, carefully. They admitted they'd misjudged me. "We favored Sophia," Mom said through tears, "and we're sorry. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start." I told them if we were going to have a relationship, it had to be built on truth. Not guilt, not image. Just real love, earned back over time. And I'm open to that. I'm not carrying the pain anymore. Sophia's different now. Tushi's working at a non-profit, saying she wants to build a life with purpose. She's no longer the golden child. She's just my sister now. My friend, looking back, I realized being underestimated was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to dig deep, to build strength, to figure out who I really was without their approval. Their rejection wasn't my ending, it was my beginning. And if you're still listening, if you've ever felt like the forgotten one, the invisible one, the not good enough one, I need you to hear me loud and clear. You are not your family's disappointment. You are not their label. You are your own story. And your worth was never theirs to measure, so go prove them wrong. Go write your own chapter, and when you do, remember this. Diamonds aren't born in comfort. They're made under pressure.